So welcome to the launch of Full Stack Feminism in Digital Humanities. We're delighted that so many of you could join us on Zoom, and there's a few of us here in the lab at Sussex, so we're delighted that some of us were able to kind of come together. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and as well to see so many new faces join us here today. As I said, this is our launch event to our two-year AHRC-IRC funded project. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sharon Webb. I'm PI for the Full Stack Feminism in Digital Humanities project. I'm a senior lecturer in Digital Humanities at the University of Sussex and a co-director for the Sussex Humanities Lab, where we are, some of us are located today. And I will introduce the team momentarily, and you'll get to kind of chat to some of the team as we progress in our talk today. So I am just going to do some very clever moving of the camera. Just give me a second. I should have done this earlier on.
You are all to be suitably impressed by that.
You know, this is multitasking.
This is a forward-facing technology project. We can zoom in.
So we hoped, as you can imagine, we'd hoped this would be a proper hybrid co-located event. But of course, recent COVID developments have meant that we've had to pare back on that co-located aspect, specifically for our Irish partners. So it's a pity that our Irish partners couldn't meet up together in person. But some of us here, at least, as I said, are in the Sussex Humanities Lab, and we hope the tech plays nicely. We're recording the event, as I said, this afternoon, but will not record any Q&A or any of the breakout rooms that we have scheduled. So the kind of overall plan for today then will be to give you an overview of our project. I'll do a very quick introduction to the Full Stack Feminism in Digital Humanities project. Janine will give an introduction to the full stacks that we refer to in the project. We'll have a breakout room, which will be an opportunity for you to either take a break, make a cup of tea, coffee, whatever it is, and then also chat to members that are here, some of the delegates, for an opportunity to get to know each other, kind of the way in which we might have usually had, a coffee break. So we'll use it as an opportunity to speak to each other. We'll then have Catherine talking about priorities in our feminist approach, specifically around community, and then Cecile and Irene will talk about our work plan and our activities. And then we've also allocated some time at the end to have an open discussion and a Q&A for ways in which you might be able to get involved. So this is very much a kind of collaborative project, but with, our members who, are here today, as well as kind of other collaborators. So in terms of the team, I just wanted to introduce, I'm not going to go through everyone, but I think it's important to note that we are a multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary team. We are partnered with the University of Sussex, the Maynooth University, the Technology University of Dublin, with the Irish Museum of Modern Art, and with the Digital Repository of Ireland. We have a number of co-Is that are part of the project, and we will have a postdoctoral research associate, a research associate and a programmer who are in the process of recruiting. So this is our team at the moment, and everyone has taken responsibility for their own picture. So I'm not taking responsibility for those pictures, but anyway, this is our team, and you can see that we're a full team, and it's great to have everyone on board. So I'm just going to go to the next slide, which is about our advisory board. I suppose we'd like to take the time to acknowledge our advisory board, which consists of Dr. Natalie Howard from the Digital Repository of Ireland, Professor Kate O'Riordan, who is here with us today from the University of Sussex, and the Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities, Dean of Media Arts and Humanities. We also have Rupika Risham from Salem State University, Deb Fahorn from the University of Alberta, and Faye Verselli, who is an Associate UX craft development director at Activism Blizzard, who really brings a kind of industry expertise to the board. I would like to acknowledge, as I said, the advisory board and to individually, who individually have immense expertise and experience and collectively represent a powerhouse of international feminist practice in digital humanities, digital archives, digital media and UX, UI design. Their varied perspectives within and across industry, academia and the cultural heritage sector is an added bonus and speaks to the myriad sections of the project. We are very appreciative of their time on this project and we know that we will gain a lot from their input. In addition to acknowledging our advisory board and indeed the team, we would also like to, at this point, acknowledge the funding from the Arts Council, the Arts and Humanities Research Council and the Irish Research Council. It's a jointly funded project so it's a two-year project jointly funded by the AHRC and IRC, and it is part of their UK-Ireland collaboration in digital humanities research grants call, and our project contributes to the research themes of digital humanities and engagement with societies and digital humanities and cultural heritage. It's important to note that this is the second collaborative call jointly organised and processed by the AHRC and IRC as part of their initiative for closer collaboration between UK and Irish partners working across and within the broad field of digital humanities. And as many of you know, this, I suppose, is the second project, the second kind of project that the partners here have been involved in. The first was the Intersection Feminism, Technology and Digital Humanities Network, which was the first of the UK-Ireland collaboration in digital humanities collaborations. And that was successfully received funding for the year 2020-21. That network was led by Professor Caroline Bassett and Kylie Jarrett in Maynooth University. I suppose we want to acknowledge IFTe here because IFTe is really the kind of the seed for full stack feminism in digital humanities, and the kind of ideas and the activities and the various outputs that we have were firmly planted during the year that we had IFTe running. Despite COVID restrictions, we were able to host a number of events and activities that really capture some of the things that we will be exploring in this second project. So I've just muddled up my notes, so just give me a second to come back to it. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight an important element of the IFTe research project, which was the Chain in Intersectional Feminist Digital Humanities project. And this is one of the major research outputs of IFTe. We see this, this is a contemporary, this is a writing project that responds to the contemporary circumstances where we couldn't meet easily in person. And it's a growing series of linked entries from people within and across the IFTe network, and will become an element of this new project, Full Stack Feminism. In terms of the various networks, IFTe and Full Stack Feminism, and in terms of the research calls, I suppose it's really important to note that we see these as important initiatives and demonstrate the kind of growing field within DH and intersectional feminism. And in that, we would like to acknowledge Full Stack Feminism is part of a kind of a body of organisations or projects which have been funded by these research calls. In that regard, we'd like to acknowledge two other projects within the AHRC's, IRC's UK-Ireland collaboration digital humanities research grants. So the success of three major projects, which include Full Stack Feminism in Digital Humanities, which include the Invisible Women Developing a Feminist Approach to Film Archive Metadata and Cataloguing, led by UEA and Maynooth University. The third project is Feminist Art Making Histories, led by Loughborough University and Dr. Tina Kinsella, who I know is here today because I saw you pop up. We would like to acknowledge those projects as part of a kind of which explicitly reference work on feminism within digital humanities. And I suppose this kind of critical mass around this is both a sign of changes and work within the field of digital humanities and of the commitment of funding bodies to support research of this nature. All three projects are committed to working together to objectively change the way in which you approach DH work, the voices that are prioritised, and to embed a culture of inclusion across our practices, research and work ethics. These interventions are necessary and timely. So, as mentioned in the overview, we will go through various aspects of the project so you will get a better sense of what we are talking about when we say full stack feminism. With full stack means to us community, it means to us intersectionality, and it means to us kind of openness and inclusion. We're also keen to involve you in the process of the project, so there will be plenty of public engagement, outreach activities, seminars and workshops that we hope that you will be able to come involved in. And if you're not already signed up to our mailing list, pop your email address into the chat thing, and we can make sure that you're added. Okay. So I want to come kind of back to full stack feminism for a bit and just talk about some of our objectives. So the aims and objectives of full stack feminism, to develop and publish a full stack feminist methodology and toolkit, to foster intersectional feminist digital coding practice, to create a collection of intersectional feminist objects and writing in the Digital Repository of Ireland, to work in collaboration with community archives and organisations, will, we hope, make a vital contribution to digital humanities by creating new intersectional feminist methods that will shape the future of digital cultural heritage and digital humanities by addressing inequalities, marginalised feminist practice and histories. A high-level objective of the project is to highlight and address specific points in project development, which include user design, data models, code production, reproduction, end-user testing and experience that often unconsciously manifest inequalities or bias in, for example, data models. The way in which we create underlying data structures and algorithms impact the way in which we as individuals and we as collectives across and within multiple intersecting communities experience, navigate digital systems and digital environments which purport to work for a perceived good. So, for example, facial recognition systems for protection, whether at national borders or on high street, which create racialized systems that reinforce racist stereotypes generated by machine learning, feedback loops and biased training sets. But as Rua Benjamin in Race After Technology 2019 writes, discriminatory design predates software design. Past and present legal codes, social codes, make manifest systems that exclude and discriminate across class, gender identity, sexuality, race, and ethnicity. The embeddedness of algorithmic bias, or the coded gaze, as Joe Lamy-Winnie 2006, founder of the Algorithmic Justice League, describes, reflects the embeddedness of society's historic bias, prejudice, and discrimination. We live in a world of big data, the sources of which are myriad but stem from our everyday interactions. Our data is volunteered, solicited, censored, and based on our many interactions with our own devices and with that of others. We are data subjects. Yet historically, we, people, became data subjects long before this contemporary moment. There is a history of labeling, categorising, measuring, and document the world and its inhabitants. Data has a history of bias because it is constructed by individuals based on their worldview. As Gittlam 2003 asserts, raw data is an oxymoron. Returning to the specific context of digital humanities and this project then, full stack feminism in digital humanities contributes to a growing acknowledgement in the fields of the need to centre intersectional feminism and critical race theory within the discipline or the subject. For the reasons outlined above, and more specifically, because DH projects and research can suffer canon or knowledge bias, replicated for example, by digitising and in the creation of digital archives. Our project is driven by and motivated by recent publications in the field of digital humanities and beyond, and which unequivocally address and call out bias in digital systems and indeed in digital humanities. And in this respect, I note two of our advisory board members, Deb Verhoeven and Rupika Risham, who have both contributed significantly to calling out gender bias and diversity issues in the field. Indeed, Alan Liu should also be noted for their interventions in this area. And indeed, there are many other peoples who I have left out for the sake of time, but you know who you are. I suppose this is all to say there is a vibrancy in the field that we hope to contribute to. Full Stack Feminism and Digital Humanities is a project which we hope will inform the ways in which digital humanities supports and engages with the many communities which are already engaging with DHS practices and critiques. As a project team, we embed intersectional feminist practice in our research and work practices, and it is our hope that our investigation will, as the feminist principles of the internet state, help us to understand the machine and to reclaim it down to the code. Applying and rethinking a feminist practice throughout the full stack, which Janine will describe momentarily, to include a feminist ethics of care, to include fair care principles, feminist epistemologies, and decoding existing epistemologies, we hope will lead to an overall intervention in the creation of a more inclusive digital cultural heritage in digital humanities. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Janine, who is going to talk us through the stacks in our full stack feminism. And I'm going to stop sharing if I can.
Oh, Janine, you mute.
Yeah, I was just muttering at PowerPoint anyway. So we'll get that down here. We'll do that like that. And you can see that okay now? Is that acceptable? Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the stacks and the concept of the stacks, the metaphor of the stacks. So digital humanities has a problem. It is built from inherited, heteronormative, gendered, and frequently racist brick and mortar. Full stack feminism and digital humanities will address this by enhancing and diversifying public access to and engagement with digital cultural heritage and intersectional feminist methods through the application and development of the open source Full Stack Feminism Toolkit. We will develop this approach by focusing on three areas referred to as stacks. They are data and archives, infrastructure, tools and code, access, experience, and integration. We use full stack as a metaphor with the understanding that this term has specific uses and meaning in software development. We use it in a similar but not precisely equivalent way. Our high-level objective is to highlight and address specific points in project development that often unconsciously manifest inequalities or bias in, for example, data models, archival descriptions, access rights, and tool functionality. So we're going to develop a full stack feminist toolkit, which will provide open source resources such as frameworks, GitHub resources, coding tutorials, a full stack feminism manual and catalog, and a range of published literature that are designed to support practitioners across digital humanities so that they can assess and apply intersectional feminist methods and critiques to their own environments. We hope that the interdisciplinary toolkit will support strategic policy developments and ethics in communities, organizations, and institutions by being made accessible and distributed to digital humanists, social scientists, policy makers, computer scientists, data journalists, archivists, and community archivists, and digital artists, to name but a few. You may be familiar with the term of a full stack developer. This is someone who is associated with the creation of an application from its start to finish. They design the front end and the back end of an application. Stacks in software development are sometimes referred to as the layers found in an application, a presentation layer, a logic layer, and a data layer. Or else you could also hear it referred to as back-end, front-end, and middleware. We use the metaphor of stacks to represent stages in the development of digital humanities projects. All stacks are linked and connected. They are iterative and accretive. They are linked, and they are linear and also non-linear, just to really confuse you. So they do go linearly, but in the project, there will be points at which we have to go back, okay? And within each stack, there are also iterative design cycles within that. I thought the Pusheen stickers might help cushion this sort of confusion. But the questions that the stacks will help us answer are: in what ways can intersectional feminist praxis and theory intervene and shape current and future digital humanities projects, resources, and digital cultural heritage more broadly? How does a focus on community-led organizations, archives, and digital art practice impact on the ways digital humanities projects are developed? How can we embed and amplify the needs of community-led heritage organizations in digital humanities projects and resources? And how democratic and inclusive are current programming languages and infrastructures in digital humanities? Spoiler alert, not very. And how can we build more inclusive and socially aware technologies, infrastructures, resources, and outputs? How does using intersectionality as a design principle and process challenge the underlying principles of, for example, AI technologies? In reference to Lord's, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. If we contribute to building the master's tools, do we still not dismantle the master's house? What impact does the embedding of a feminist ethics of care and feminist epistemologies have on the software development cycle of both formal and informal software teams? So, we are at the start of our research project. So these are the types of questions that are at the forefront of our mind as we begin this journey. I'll go into each of the stacks in a little bit more detail now. So stack 1 is data and archives, which supports a focus on the ways in which data in all its manifest forms is harvested, collected, described, and stored. It is concerned with the foundations of knowledge and how certain data or histories are either silenced and or sidelined in favor of others. Examples in this stack include digitization priorities, archival descriptions, methods, and standards, gaps in data collection, machine learning, and bias training data sets. As Klein et al. In Data Feminism 2020 states, what gets counted counts. Stack 2 is infrastructure, coding, and tools, and it considers the underlying architecture, systems, and code upon which digital humanities projects rely, asking how they are built and what, if any, exclusionary practices manifest in this space. For example, how does a gender imbalance affect the functionality of a particular system? How do monolinguistic software languages affect how code is produced and how it is reused? It allows us to ask questions in relation to the open software movement, gender imbalance in development teams, and other considerations such as access rights and permissions. For example, the use of infrastructures or platforms such as Makurtu provides a wholly different perspective on access permissions. This stack is also concerned with data models, how they are created, and how they extrapolate and present a certain worldview. Stack 3, access, experience, and integration, what we could consider the front end, and it is concerned with the way in which digital tools, resources, and archives are accessed and experienced by users, by consumers, by archivists, and ways in which knowledge and digital cultural heritage is accessible or indeed inaccessible. It considers the developer's point of view, as well as the user or consumer's point of view. It is the front end of the process. In this stack, we will draw on feminist HCI methodologies such as Bardzell's seminal 2010 article, Feminist HCI, Taking Stock and Outlining an Agenda for Design. Feminist HCI is a design methodology that seeks to incorporate feminist values such as inclusion, diversity, and social justice in the development of interactive media. And I guess the interactive aspect is important to remember, particularly in relation to what I was saying, that these are linear. These stacks are linear, but also non-linear. If you think of interactivity as more a communicative process, in that, yes, it is cycling through those aspects in a linear manner, but it is always also looping back on itself. An analysis or investigation of the landscape within each stack will help us inform future cultural imaginaries in each area. The stacks will inform our analysis and scoping phases and our interventions and the development of our full stack feminist toolkit. Applying and rethinking a feminist praxis throughout the full stack will lead to an overall intervention in the creation of a more inclusive digital cultural heritage in digital humanities. Throughout the project, a focus on archives will help us mediate between object and subject, between theory and practice, between feminist epistemologies and technology. This focus will allow us to explore how data is collected, created, and described, how it is thereafter disseminated, transformed, reused, or repurposed. This frame allows us to critique both what is in traditional archives and what is not, and places emphasis on the feminist, queer, and post-colonial practice of documenting marginalized stories and voices, and creative arts practice that use digital tools and methodologies to make these accessible to wider audiences. So before we move on to our tea break, I just wanted to give a quick opportunity here. If anyone has any specific questions, this is not a point for open discussion, just for if anyone has any questions on clarification, please don't hesitate to raise your hand at this point. Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay. Well, I think we can move to our tea break, Sharon. Is that okay? And
yeah, so I'm just going to, oh yeah, yeah, so we have, thanks Janine, so we have a kind of a tea break which will include a breakout room, but in that feel free to make a cup of tea, come back. I think in breakout rooms what we want to just have a chat and kind of think about what your interests are in the projects, you know, kind of get a sense of who we are as a group. So I will try and do breakout rooms now, so bear with me. So that will be for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll come back at 10 to 4. Oh, brilliant! We're back in the main room, and I hope you all got a chance to chat with each other. And for this next section, we're going to hand over to Catherine Nolan. Catherine.
Hi everybody, so I'm Catherine and I teach creative digital media in TU Dublin, and I'm an artist and practice-based researcher. So it was great to have chats with everybody there in the breakout rooms. I don't know about you, but we were so busy I didn't get to go to the loo or get a cup of tea, but that's okay, I'll keep going. So apologies if I talk really quickly. But it was great, and I suppose it's really timely that we're coming back after that, because I'm going to talk a little bit about community. So I was asked to talk about our priorities, and communities was really, I suppose I'm talking through the lens of communities, because that just felt so important and so embedded in what we do. So communities are important to the Full Stack Feminist Project in many ways. So as a form of intersectional practice, we seek to include multiple voices and perspectives in order to address multiple and intersecting forms of oppression. So we understand that intersectionality is found in human collectives and their diverse narratives. We have a working definition of what we mean by communities. We'll be asking, who are we including and prioritizing? We'll be asking, how do we speak with and not for or to these communities? And we'll be asking, how can we draw the narratives and lived experiences of communities into archives, data sets, and our full stack feminist toolkit? So our role of research assistant is dedicated to working with our communities and working through these questions. And engaging communities in this way is part of our feminist approach. The Full Stack Feminist project is also a form of community building. So a strengthening of networks and links between those of us working in or interested in a feminist digital humanities. And I suppose I'm quite aware that we have a variety of people coming to this launch today. And I suppose we're inviting all of you to feel included. Part of what we want to do is we want to endeavour to flatten hierarchies in our working methods. This isn't easy, it's an ongoing process. We struggle, but we keep kind of pushing towards this, and we need your help with this. So we can't be a community by ourselves. So this needs to be a conversation with all of you. So we're inviting you to feel involved, no matter how sometimes we can feel very tangential to these things. I'm not sure where we fit, but our open call to you is to get in touch with us. We're open, email us, write in the chat. There's no idea or reference too small. And what might seem obvious from your perspective, maybe new to us or maybe need to reaffirm. So I suppose we're really hoping that this can be a conversation, and we really want to pull in multiple perspectives. So I suppose I'm saying, please don't take your perspective for granted. And I can see people here from a range of different disciplines today and a range of different perspectives. So we need and we value those multiple perspectives, both from our communities and their lived experiences, and also our disciplines. So people from coding, from art practice, from archiving, from heritage and theoretical perspectives. We also need tools and working methods to facilitate and capture these multiple perspectives. We're kind of asking, how do we work together in these ways? How can our systems and how accommodate that, and how can we structure that? So again, all suggestions are really welcome on that. And so our question ultimately that we would like you to help us answer is, how can we design systems and archives that are structured by, rather than oppressing or including, intersectionality? So thank you, and I am handing over to Cecile and to Irene.
Thank you, Catherine. To manage the screen. So I'm going to share my screen again. Hold on, and then we can zoom over to Irene and Cecile. Okay, can everyone see my screen there? Work plan activity?
Yeah.
Yes. And I need to, hold on. I need to zoom across.
Okay, I can see us a little bit.
Yeah, comme ça, and zoom in. Okay. Cecile and Irene.
Brilliant. Thank you. Hello, everyone, again. And so I'm Cecile Chevalier, a senior lecturer in media practice at the University of Sussex. Irene?
And I am Irene, a lecturer in digital media practice at Sussex as well.
So the first point, yes, thank you, is our main objective really is to develop the full stack feminism methodology and toolkit that software teams, program managers, database designer, digital arts practitioners, data scientists, DH communities can review and apply to support and shape a more inclusive and representative digital humanities practice, current and future heritage. So it's quite ambitious, but it will start somewhere. So the next slide, please. So over the course of this project, we will employ a number of approaches to research that ensures a multitude of voices and perspectives are included, reflecting our own intersectional feminist position whilst fostering digital coding and decoding practice. So here, reiterating what Catherine mentioned earlier, we around communities. We understand that intersectionality is found in human collectives, and they're different and are different as well. and horizontal as opposed to hierarchical narratives. Virginia Eubanks, in their book Digital Dead End, articulates that the people closest to the problems probably have the best information about them to build solutions that will last. Full stack feminism recognizes the need to engage with our and new communities in order to push not only the boundaries of creation, but also to critically examine the ethics and practice that surround us, with the ambition to shape DH public policies and ethics.
So I guess this is where I take over.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So in order to achieve the objectives that you see on the screen, I think Sharon needs to move to the next slide.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so in order to achieve the objectives that you saw in the previous slide about developing a toolkit, and in order to build, apply, and integrate a sustainable full stack feminist method and toolkit, we are drawing on participatory action research, practice as research, which means engaging with and within new intersectional life, public environments and their infrastructures, culture, and actions. From firstly, active archive decoding and materializing, which will include forum discussions, series of interviews, and a conference, and active archive performativity, which includes a series of coding workshops, artists, archivists, and computer sciences collaborative commissions, and third, active performance engagement with our exhibition collaboration with the Digital Repository of Ireland and Irish Museum of Modern Art, informing a public digital collection. Each of these activities provides new agency of the human and its identification, which is empowered, asking who is empowered, who is oppressed, who is made visible. In doing so, each new event, their materialization, their digital artifacts, will shape the FSF or Full Stack Feminist Toolkit as an infrastructure, practice, and culture. The toolkit will build from and develop on intersectional cultural imaginaries taking place in shaping or occupying the future digital humanities, digital cultural infrastructure, and heritage. And on the screen there, this is just a little infrastructural representation here. Most people who are in software development know SKCD, who does a lot of comics. So Cecilia and I spent a while this morning creating this, wonderful adaptation, addressing what it is that we are hoping to do in talking about infrastructure. So we're not just looking at infrastructure in the way that a software developer would look at it, which is legacy code that is being maintained by some random person in Nebraska, but instead we're looking at it as, infrastructures or structural issues that come from, legacies of patriarchy, capitalism, and colonial racism, and how that builds into modern digital infrastructure. In some sense, we are trying to move away from what you see at the roots there to create new toolkits and methods that speak to new ways of organizing the world, pretty much. So who is next? Is that it?
You've got more slides.
Yours. Your slide.
Oh, my slides. Yeah. So hold on, thanks Irene and Cecile. So hold on, we're going to zoom across.
Oh, look at that, smooth.
I am the tech person and the host all at the same time. Okay, so I mean that's the kind of end of our, I suppose, the kind of formal outline of the project. We hope you've gotten a sense of what it is that we want to achieve, and I hope that you've gotten a sense of the types of activities that will be included. I've put up some information just on our Twitter handle and our website, and just as well to note to add your name in the chat so if you want to be added to the mailing list. And so I think we're going to wrap up. I just want to thank everyone for coming this afternoon. I know it's a Friday afternoon, and for committing time to this. As we said, this is the start of our 2-year project. So, we're excited to start the research, and we're excited to start the activities. We will be kind of hopefully announcing in the new year our new recruits to the team, and then I think within that, then we'll start the kind of proper work of the project. So please do keep in contact. Do put your name in the chat if you want to be added to the email list, and we will have various project activities. We're hoping to get to Ireland at some point as a team here. I'm Irish, which just means coming home, which is great. And then we hope that, you know, the Irish team can come over to Sussex as well. So, and at some point, Cambridge. Caroline, we need to go to Cambridge. Yeah. So we hope at some point we'll actually be located in the places that we hope to be located in. From a personal perspective, I just want to say, I think it's, you know, I'm just very privileged to be within such a great team, and it's great to start this. And so thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you all for speaking and for contributing. And I wish you all a lovely weekend and a happy Christmas. Are we allowed to say that?